New overnight, President Trump is heading home after cutting a summit with North Korean leaders short, even without a deal on denuclearization.
And Wisconsin's governor is set to announce his first budget proposal later today, with many of his proposals likely dead when they reach his Republican legislature.
And a longtime Packers coach is caught on camera getting fired up on the sidelines once again, this time at a high school basketball game.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
A lot of people talking about that video. We will get to that in just a moment. Good morning, though. It is Thursday, February 28th. And as we slam the books shut on February, we are preparing for even more winter-like weather, if not some of the coldest temperatures we've ever seen to start March.
I know, we could be talking record cold temperatures for March, so I'm just trying to get my head into a good place, make it through the next week.
You have to.
And then maybe things will turn around a little bit.
Hopefully.
Here is the almanac for the day. Normal high, in case you were wondering, 36 degrees on today's date. Our forecast is 20, so we are well below where we should be, but 20 is actually pretty nice compared to what we have coming for the weekend and the start of next week. Temperatures are cold this morning, 2 in Madison, 3 below in the Dells, 4 in Prairie du Chien. Janesville's the warm spot, but they're down in the single digits now as well with 9. Temperatures will climb back to around 20 this afternoon with a light southwest wind through the day, so wind chill won't be a huge factor today. Let's check those traffic maps this morning. Your News 3 Now First Alert traffic showing you that there aren't any major delays, maybe a few slowdowns on that westbound Beltline right around Rimrock, but otherwise no accidents to report. Here's a look at your drive times and speeds into Madison. Everything looks normal for this time of the day.
Yeah, I think the big debate this morning has been whether we want snow or prefer snow over cold or vice versa at this time.
No, I mean, I really want sun and warmth, but
Right.
those aren't the options this time.
No, it just
If
doesn't
only.
seem right. Exactly. It's either sun and cold, snow and cold.
Not as cold.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
Well, right now, President is back on Air Force One, heading back to the U.S. after the two-day summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was called early overnight. After 2 days of negotiations, President Trump and Kim Jong-un were not able to reach a deal to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Their lunch and signing schedule for today was canceled as that announcement was made.
I think actually it was a very productive 2 days, but sometimes you have to walk, and this was just one of those times.
The president called the two-day summit interesting and productive, noting that while the U.S. and North Korea have very different visions, those visions are much closer than they were a year ago. At this time, the two leaders have not agreed to another summit.
Back in Wisconsin, Governor Tony Evers will officially release his first budget as governor tonight. The governor already announced a handful of initiatives that plan will cover, including a $150 million investment in the UW system. He also wants to continue a tuition freeze initially passed by Republicans years ago and charge students who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children in-state tuition. Now, GOP leaders don't support that idea or the governor's plans, that is, to restore funding for Planned Parenthood under a women's health initiative. Governor Evers also wants to make it so 17-year-olds are tried and charged as juveniles in Wisconsin's justice system. Right now, we're one of just 6 states that treats 17-year-olds as adults. The rest set that age at 18. The governor's plan would include funding to help counties move those teenagers into juvenile prisons. He also plans to push back the deadline to close the troubled Lincoln Hills youth prison, saying the state needs more time and about $200 million to build replacement facilities. We will stream the governor's budget address starting at 7 p.m. over on Channel3000.com and our News 3 Now Facebook page. Then political reporters Jessica Arp and Rose Schmidt will have analysis and reaction tonight on News 3 Now at 10.
The former head coach for the Packers is back in the spotlight, but it's not for a victory on the field or a new job announcement. A formal complaint has been submitted to the WIAA after an apparent incident involving Mike McCarthy. It happened after a high school basketball game Tuesday night between Pulaski and Notre Dame Academy. McCarthy's stepson plays for Notre Dame, the team that lost by just 1 point in that game. In the video, you can see McCarthy approach a referee after the game, quickly getting turned away. The WIAA tells WLUK-TV in Green Bay a complaint has been filed, but the extent of that complaint is confidential at this time.
Wisconsin football has some decisions to make ahead of its season opener against South Florida this August. Last year's starter, Alex Hornibrook, is entering the NCAA transfer portal, which means he will not be with the Badgers next year. Hornibrook started at quarterback for most of the last 3 seasons, but missed the last 5 games last year for concussion-related issues. He was also expected to face stiff competition, that is, from Jack Cohen, who played over Hornibrook in the Pinstripe Bowl, and newcomer Graham Mertz, a 4-star prospect out of Kansas. Hornibrook will get his degree in business in May from the UW before he's eligible to play somewhere else next fall.
Later today, we could get some clarity on when the sexual assault trial for suspended Badgers football player Quintez Cephas will begin. Cephas has a scheduling conference later this morning in Dane County Court. It'll be his first court appearance since the start of his trial was delayed earlier this month. The State Journal reports that was because of late arriving evidence in the case. 2 women claim Cephas assaulted them on the same night while they were drunk last April. Cephas has pleaded not guilty to charges of 2nd and 3rd degree sexual assault, claiming the encounters were consensual.
Families in one Fitchburg neighborhood are considering another petition after their request to change school districts was denied again. This group of parents in Swan Creek neighborhood wants their kids to go to Oregon schools instead of Madison. Part of their reasoning is a new Oregon school that's going up just 2 miles away. Earlier this week, though, the boards for both Madison and Oregon voted down that request, citing a land agreement made between the 2 districts 17 years ago. At that time, the agreement did not affect any students. We have the full document posted on channel3000.com if you'd like to read it for yourself. This is now the 3rd time parents in Swan Creek have tried to change their district. The petitioners are now considering whether to appeal, and that would require another round of signatures by mid-March.
So the 3-3 vote. With a vote of yes, the motion passes.
Legal counsel says that decision at the Iowa Grant School Board meeting last night is not valid. The board voted 3-3 to increase class sizes despite pushback from parents and teachers. The board then passed the motion, confusing a lot of people in the room as there was not a majority vote. Legal counsel says the vote actually resulted in a stalemate decision. Now the measure itself also contributed to confusion. The board voted to have a maximum of 16 students per kindergarten class, 17 students max for 1st through 3rd grades, and for 4th through 8th grade, a max of 18 students plus the grade level. Even though the board passed that decision, when we asked the superintendent to clarify for our report, she seemed to have a lot of questions as well.
Can you clarify for me what they passed?
Okay, I will try.
So were there minimums then introduced for that final?
I need to clarify that a little bit further. I do think that there are minimums. I'm not as clear as far as what those are.
Legal counsel says another meeting will have to be held in order to take another vote.
All right, your time right now is 5:08. Q106 Farm Director Pam Yankee joins us now to talk about the hemp crop. And Pam, I'm with you. It's hard to believe tomorrow is March 1st and that deadlines are already starting for this year's planting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, tomorrow's an important date for a couple different reasons. We've got that. We've also have tomorrow's the deadline if you want to submit your farm or homestead for a sesquicentennial or century farm designation. That'll be presented in August through the Wisconsin State Fair. They've got the file on the Wisconsin State Fair website if you want to take a look. Department of Agriculture also has it up. Some university extension offices making that available. March 1st is also the deadline for applications to grow or process industrialized hemp in Wisconsin. Had a great conversation yesterday with Brian Kuhn, Division Administrator at the Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Now remember, there's still more applications that are coming in. We'll have snail mail. That'll take them until at least next week to make sure they've given everybody their opportunity. But it's shocking how many people want to get into this game. And I understand part of it is because all of our other commodities are in such doldrums. Something like industrialized hemp can look like a real opportunity. Brian Kuhn says last year we handled somewhere in the neighborhood of about 350 applications to grow or process hemp. That was its first year, the inaugural year. Now he's looking at right around 1,500 applications to do the same. That is tremendous. Now, the other thing that's kind of bogging down the process when I talk to Brian is a lot of those folks, rightly so, still have questions about what they have to do, more about the crop, more about the marketing. Brian Kuhn says basically his staff's trying to answer all the questions that they can while keeping the process moving forward. He said he also wants to remind folks, if you're interested in producing industrialized hemp, make sure you've got a market before you grow it. Last year, I think everybody learned quite a few different lessons when it came to the crop. Number one, it's not as easy to grow as you might think, depending on where you are in the state. Number two, it is all about finding a market for that product before you put the crop in the ground. Last year was just an awful year for the beginning of those experiences. Too much wet weather basically snuffed out the crop for a lot of folks. I have not yet found a hemp producer that made money last year. Most of them lost money. But like I said, another 1,500 people in the pipe that want to at least produce or process industrialized hemp around Wisconsin. One thing that they did change, I said to Brian, we've got the farm bill that deals with hemp production. He said, yes, he's hoping that by the time they get done with implementation of the 2018 Farm Bill, that it will set a framework in place for Wisconsin to kind of pass off some responsibilities they have, because right now they're still under a pilot program operational guide. He noted also that they learned what varieties work and which ones don't work in Wisconsin. And there's one variety in particular, C4, that is going to be banned from production here in the state of Wisconsin. Reason being, they're trying to protect farmers from losing their shirt. Last year, they found out that that particular variety of industrialized hemp, really, it grew too fast. It got ahead of us, and it ended up producing too much THC. That meant that the crop had to be destroyed. Remember, controlled substance, so to speak. So no C4 industrialized hemp in Wisconsin this year, but that's only one change out of a program that's finding an awful lot of support. I'll follow up with Brian next week and see what else I can learn about those numbers. But 350 to 1,500 this year, by far exceeding any other state around us in the upper Midwest, even Kentucky, Colorado. Way more people interested in industrialized hemp right here in Wisconsin than anywhere else. Quick look at just a calendar item or two. Do want to remind you, as far as activities, Professional Dairy Producers of Wisconsin back around the Alliant Energy Center, March 13th and 14th, their annual meeting. Great speakers, wonderful trade show, just a chance to slide out of that winter doldrums and talk with friends. Speaking of talking with friends, this is a good place to go if you are struggling with financial management stress of being in farming. I know it's up in Green Bay, but I want to make sure everybody's got their resources available as much as they can. So Tundra Lodge, March 20th, that's where they'll be having that Supporting Farmers in Trying Times breakout session. And like I said, we've got other events that are going to be coming up that are very much like that, but I want to make sure Danica and Josh, that our farmers out there know if they're just struggling, there are people out there that will help. Ag Day at the Capitol, I'm sure that's going to be some of the conversations that we have with elected officials at the State House. I grant you, there's not much they can do at the State House when it comes to trade tariffs and so forth, but still, it's always good to just talk about these things with other folks, and that may include your elected officials. Welcome back to Debbie Towns. Wanted to toss that out there. She what used to be down at the State House. Now she has joined the staff at the Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation as their new senior government relations person. So welcome back to the fold, Debbie Towns. Good to see her. So that's what's happening in my neck of the woods this morning. I swear, you ought to just let me talk and bring food news and farm news, because I don't know if anybody wants to hear what Hattie's got up her sleeve this morning. Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Sub-zero on the first. Oh, for the love of Mary. That's just crazy.
We're right there with you. I think
yep.
Hattie's there with you. It's one of those don't blame the messenger forecasts.
I heard her. Everybody is right at the end of their rope. Holy peapod.
It is exhausting. All right, Pam, we'll see you tomorrow.
You bet.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, it is 5:13. To steal the words from Elsa, more snow doesn't bother us anyway. How'd I do? I did it. Well, you know what does bother us? The snow does kind of bother me, but the near record cold bothers me even more. Hattie's looking ahead to sunny skies and frigid temps in her first lower forecast.
That's right. And all of you parents in Mount Horeb might hear your kids mention umbrellas even when the skies are clear. The schools are using that as a sign of protection in its latest mental health effort. We'll explain straight ahead on News 3 Now this morning.